and thanks yeah, to Passive House Alberta to make it all happen, and pushing the envelope up, and yeah, making Passive House more accessible in Alberta. Yeah, what we want to present today is a deep energy retrofit that we just completed a few months ago. It's a project in Canmore. Yeah, and I want to walk you through that. Yeah, so first, a little bit about HSS Design Build. I grew up in Switzerland and I was trained as a carpenter there. And we moved here 7 years ago. I came to Canada before and left. But yeah, it really shocked me when I first got here, how houses are built. And not only that, but I traveled Canada as well. I traveled up to the Yukon and yeah, BC and Alberta mostly. And I just realized that the houses seem to be built the same everywhere, which didn't quite make sense because yeah, it's such a different climate everywhere. Anyway, this and our passion to, you know, build sustainable and energy efficient led me to create the business HSS Design Build, and our mission is really to accelerate transition to sustainable and energy efficient construction practices here in Alberta and beyond. Yeah, I'm a certified passive house designer, and you know, even back in Switzerland, the way we built prefab, it was always to a very high standard. So yeah, I really wanted to share my knowledge and show other people that how things can be done, and that there is a better way to build. Yeah, right now we're doing mostly residential, but we're also doing commercial. We're looking into commercial, but basically any project that we do, we look at it, you know, what can be done better from energy consumption point of view. How can we reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and how can we build more sustainable so that you know, building can be enjoyed for generations to come. Now about that building that we renovated. So our clients yeah, bought that house in the last fall. It was, you know, investment property for them. They don't live in town, so they liked it because it has a mountain character to it. But it was definitely very, very dated. It's a three-story dwelling. Yeah, it's about 23, 24 years old. It's quite spacious, but all the finishes were, yeah, very, very dated and kind of stood still in time. As for the building envelope, it was just 2x6 walls, pink insulation. The roof was insulated with bats as well, and they had double glazed PVC windows, and just forced air heating. Now this is the project, how it looked before we started. So the clients actually liked kind of the architecture and just all those different roof forms, you know, which if we design something from scratch, we definitely go a bit more simplistic and do less volumes and reduce thermal bridging. But this is, yeah, what we had, and you know, we're very grateful to the clients. They really let us a lot of freedom. And so what we did for this project, we did everything design build. So we did all the drawings, the permits, and then the construction as well. Yeah, so what did we do? So we basically, it was a whole renovation. You know, we got it, the whole building inside and outside. On the outside, basically, we replaced the roof, we replaced the windows, we took all the siding off. And on the inside, basically, we didn't remove all the drywall because some rooms were left as are. So that's why we didn't, you know, replace the vapor barrier or such, because it wasn't removed everywhere. But basically what we did is we exchanged all the windows with triple glazed. wood metal. And because this particular property is situated on top of a bench and the highway is in front of it, it's quite far away, but still very close. We went with sound transmission glass, which basically reduces the noise going through the window drastically. So all it is 3 different thicknesses of panes of windows. And then we looked at the openings too, and we reconfigured the opening sizes, especially on the south. We increased the openings. We added some shading. We were limited with the shading though towards the south, just because of the given architecture, and that's what the client really liked about it. But we added a suspended balcony, which, yeah, was used as or is used as a master bedroom access, and then it also creates shading for the windows below. The layout before was very constricted, a lot of small rooms, a lot of walls, and we basically opened it all up as well to enhance natural ventilation, but also light, and also because yeah, the clients like to entertain, right? So it was really important to look at it from a blank slate. We also added insulation. We added a continuous wood fiber insulation on the whole exterior of the building. And then we installed a rain screen before the cedar siding. Yeah, because we moved so many walls and layouts, it basically led us to move most of the mechanical as well. So we basically moved a lot of ductwork and electrical as well. As far as the mechanical system goes, we replaced the existing hot water boiler and water heater with a domestic hot water unit. And we replaced the furnace as well with a new high efficiency furnace. We looked into air source heat pumps, but because just on its own, it wasn't feasible for this house because it had such a big volume. We just went with the furnace, and it basically came down to the what makes most sense. And also the client were kind of fond of just a simple furnace because they don't live here all the time. So so that's how we decided on that. And then we exchanged all the light fixtures. They're all LED, they're all dimmable. We used low water fixtures and toilets, and yeah, there was a wood fireplace as well, which is replaced with a direct vent. Now this was a bit heavy in information, so let's go through. Oh man, oh, here we go. So these are actually the initial floor plans that we marked up. Those are the real estate drawings, but that's kind of how we started. And you see on the left here, so that's a ground floor plan. You see on the left as you walked up the stair, it was very constrained, very a lot of walls. And yeah, what we did, we basically removed those walls, and as our luck had it, those were all the structural walls. This was a structural wall, we knew that before, but all the mechanical was in here, of course. So actually what we did, we implemented a new 2x6 wall behind the kitchen, where we had to rerun all the services, all the ductwork, most of the electrical, and so on. So, but that was important, that we were not going through the exterior wall, even though we had wood fiber on the outside. It's good to have basically an installation cavity solely just for the mechanical equipment to not impact the building envelope or the insulation value and so on. Yeah, and then we just changed the fireplace out. Basically, the layout stayed the same, and then we added the windows here, or a door, replaced the windows with the door. So yeah, what it comes down to, basically, those are the 5 biggest items we did, with that retrofit from a energy saving perspective. So we replaced all the windows with high performance windows. We enlarged openings where it makes sense, where we would increase solar gain, reduce the openings where it didn't make sense, and we also looked at the operations. We made as many windows fixed as possible, just because they have a better insulation value than the operable windows, but still wanted to make sure that we have a good airflow and natural cross ventilation. Again, we added the insulation to the exterior of the building, which really reduced the thermal bridges and increased the insulation by about a third, and then also increases the sound, or reduces the sound transmission drastically. Yeah, and as I said, we redesigned the layout also on the second floor, and we redesigned quite a bit of the layout, but yeah, it might not be as important for this. Yeah, and then we installed the energy efficient heating and mechanical systems. So here we have some photos from construction, during construction. So you see here the wood fiber has been installed around those windows. It was very important that we have the right process and the right procedure. As example with the roofing, so it was important that we're all on the same page with the roofer, because the wood fiber has to go on first before the roofing goes on, so just that the insulation goes all the way down and we don't have a thermal bridge. And the flashing had to be installed before, so we can tape and do the siding. So it was just important with all the aspects. You just kind of educate the trades as you go along and tell them how we do things and why we do it differently. And I must say that actually, yeah, everybody was very responsive and kind of open to new ideas. Yeah, which made it go smooth. So yeah, on the front, we basically changed the entrance because just the design before wasn't great. And then, so we did change some of the windows on this side, basically just this window on this side. And as you see, just wood fiber everywhere, the new, yeah, the new water membrane, the new roof. We used metal roofing for this, but it has stone coated, so it looks like shingles. But that's just something in Camor we're restricted with other, or with composite roofing. Now on the right side, we see the deck area basically. So we have a Duradeck here, and then what you can see is the details with the rain screen. So we have an insect screen here. We have 1x4 battens for the airflow, and then there would be another insect screen below the window, and flashing above, and insect screen as well. We also have the soffit that's vented. All this siding is cedar on this house, the new siding, and we basically have custom sheet metal, perforated sheet metal for the ventilation strips. Here's some more photos from the other side. So that's where the fireplace is, behind the wall. And it's actually important to note that when we looked at this building, or when we started, they had two chimneys. One was the chimney for the furnace, and the other one was the chimney through the roof for the wood fireplace. And because we replaced the fireplace with a direct vent gas fireplace, we were able to basically abandon the old chimney. But we didn't only abandon it, we didn't abandon it, we basically got rid of it, because in the end of the day, it is just another thermal bridge that goes through the floors, through the roof, and you don't have insulation. So we actually took both of those chimneys off and just had the roofing continuous. Yeah, and then again, you see the rain screen here. So this is all cedar siding, clear cedar siding on part, and then knotty cedar siding. And we made custom corner pieces and custom details. We'll look into the window details here soon. And here's the other side where all the mechanical equipment. Same thing here. You basically see the rain screen on the bottom. We didn't insulate the stucco. So that's basically the one area we decided to neglect because it's a minimal area. and the basement is not mainly utilized, and it's lockable too, so it's its own zone. So we really focused from above the stucco up. But here you see the wood fiber, the 60 millimeter. We did some roof changes here as well, and stucco. And you see some pipes here. On a funny note, it's actually good that you have the strapping on the outside. If anybody ever forgets a wire, it can be done after the fact. Yeah, so here are the window details that we made. And basically those windows are located, in a traditional way on the outside of the sheeting. And then we have the 60 millimeter wood fiber around. And what we did, we taped all the seams. So the wood fiber, another great aspect of it is if it comes, or the product we used comes with a tongue and groove. So it's actually waterproof. And you don't need to tape the seams. You only need to tape where you have corners, where you have penetrations, and around the windows as example. We used the Sega tape. It comes with a primer, and basically you prime the wood, and then it sticks to it very, very well. The wood fiber has a coating on it. It has or paraffin wax, I think it's called, and it basically makes the wood repel water, and it can be exposed, I think, for up to 6 months during construction. Yeah, so again, we did a custom 2x6 cedar jam around. We did a custom sill on the bottom. You see it a little better here. And then battens or 1x4s on the side for the ventilation. And then again, what's not shown in here, there's always an insect screen on the bottom and above, and obviously a flashing on top as well. So yeah, here's the detail in section, and then here's the top view. It just shows you how, yeah, the strapping is connected. Whenever we had horizontal siding, basically a vertical batten or vertical strapping is enough. In some areas we had the siding run horizontal, so then in that case we would, vertical. In that case we would make a cross strapping to attach the siding to. Yeah, so the wood fiber, as you see, just gets attached with those connectors. It just a screw goes through it, and you just screw into the stud. Maybe 2 on the bottom row is good, but then once you're higher, one per board seemed sufficient. It's really just to hold it in place. And then afterwards, we installed a vertical strapping to it, and it gets connected to the studs and or the headers and the sills. The connection detail of those strapping really depends on the siding. As example, if you use hardy board or any heavier material, you need more screws, and if you use a wood fiber or cedar, something light, it's less. Yeah. Now some more progress photos. Yeah, the one drawback of sand transmission glass is they're really, really heavy panes of glass, so it really makes it a struggle to install those windows. But again, that was the biggest, heaviest one. Now here, this is from the inside. This is the living dining room or dining area and the living area. So here we had a window before, and yeah, we replaced it with this floor to wall door, sliding door. And then over here with those windows, they were field glazed, which was nice. And because also those windows we actually made a little taller by about 1 foot on the bottom, just again to increase the solar gain, and yeah, you get better views because this is really facing directly to the south. To the mechanical system, so we installed an on-demand hot water heater. It's used for both domestic hot water as well as the radiant. In-floor heating, we only had a radiant on the main floor. or the ground floor, and that was already roughed into the concrete slab, the existing one. So how it works, there's basically 2 different loops, and whenever you use hot water, all the power, all the BTU goes towards heating that domestic hot water. But if you're not using it, then it runs very quietly and just heats the radiant, because for the radiant, much lower heat is required, and also a lower flow rate. Those units are very efficient. Yeah, about 95%. They do condense a lot of water because of the flue gases. So you definitely need a drain. Yeah, but they're very efficient and very, very quiet. And then forward furnace, again, we went with a regular furnace on this project. But we basically went with the best furnace that was available on the market, most efficient. Napoleon furnace. It comes with a heat exchange HRV, and then we also added a HEPA filter beside it, and then we actually also added steam humidifier, just because it's so dry here in the winter and there's a lot of wood finishes. So it's important to keep the humidity in the house at a certain constant level. Yeah, there's also a UV lamp in this furnace, which cleans the air, depurified air, and it seems to be a very, very efficient unit so far. Here are some photos from the mechanical system. So yeah, this is the furnace with HRV. Just a regular filter, and then the humidifier here, and then there's another HEPA filter out of the picture. And then this is the IBC on-demand hot water boiler, just with the cover taken off. So you see everything is very concealed. And then here's just the pipe work for the radiant inflow heat. Just another photo from the inside. So this was the old fireplace that was didn't have any combustion gas intake, so you basically would draw the air from the house and bring it out through the vertical chimney, and we replaced it with this direct vent fireplace, which takes the combustion air from the outside. So it's a closed loop, and there is no heat loss or warm air that's being lost. And then just some more photos from the inside. We just reconfigured the stair. Basically, everything was a green color in this house before dated. So just a new staircase, floating stair, steel stringer with wood and slat walls, and then just some walls from the looks from the inside as well. This is where the bearing wall was before. So we opened it all up so the clients could entertain. And then again, all those water fixtures were just the low flow fixtures. But we did not opt for a drain recovery, heat recovery. We can get to that on later. So what did we learn, and what are the reasons for the work that we did? Again, the continuous insulation on the outside, the wood fiber. I've really done this numerous times back in Europe and even here now on a few projects, and it just makes such a great difference. It reduces the thermal bridges, and it really, because the wood fiber has such a big mass compared to other insulation products, it retains the heat much longer. So that means the phase shift is much longer, which means basically it takes longer for the cold air from outside to travel into the inside and vice versa, just because it can retain the heat. Definitely important to mark the studs, because you're screwing into the studs, and then also again with the strapping, you're screwing into the studs. And what we found in this project, because apparently the framing wasn't built in all in once, so the studs and the joists and the studs above didn't line up. Sometimes we kind of had to stagger the strapping. So it's very important to mark where the studs are on the wood fiber as you go, so that you hit the wood, the stud later on. Yeah, again, tongue and groove insulation, I think that's the great way to go. You don't need to tape it. You don't need building paper. You definitely need to tape the penetrations and the seams with the right tape and with the right primer. Yeah, wood fiber is natural. It is made from offcuts. It's sustainable. Yeah, it doesn't itch. It's really nice to work with. The crew loves it. So that's why we like it. And actually also from a fire point of view, wood fiber, because it is from Germany, it actually has a fire rating of more than an hour. So because it's not flammable, even if you take a torch to it, it doesn't burn. It kind of smolders, but it does not catch on fire. So which is great to know. And that's usually the most, pushback I get from people is how does it act in fire, which is a fair thought. Yeah, again, I think the process is very important. What we did is install the windows first and then go with the wood fiber right up to it. It's all about the process and doing the right steps at the right time to really have a successful outcome. Yeah, some vinyl clad windows have better insulation factors, but again, just wanted to go with wood. It does look, it does look a little better. Depends on your opinion, yeah, adding the different thicknesses of glass actually help to increase the insulation value of the windows. Yeah, and then again, it's just we were trying to do fixed windows as much as we can. And again, just to reduce the insulation value of those windows and just do the operable ones where they're actually going to get used and where they have a purpose. Yeah, anytime you move internal walls, yeah, it just comes with surprises, or even exterior walls. Just the mechanical needs to be redone and reworked. Yeah, and again, to not compromise the insulation on the outside with a lot of mechanical equipment. It's better, in our opinion, to implement a stud wall or a mechanical wall just for all the plumbing and heating and electrical work. Yeah, and the other good thing is with the wood fiber, it really adds insulation to the house when you're working there. And yeah, so even if it's exposed for a few months, it doesn't matter because it can be exposed. Yeah, and here's a shot from the exterior. You see here basically a suspended balcony, which provides shading here, especially in the summer, but still lets the sun through in the winter. Yeah, and you see all the glazing with the slim corner detail. And here another shot from the front. As you see, actually, we did add a garage and a gym above here. It took a little longer with the development permit process, but yeah, the house looks a bit more balanced now. I think that's it. Thanks so much for listening, and yeah, follow us. The future is bright, and thanks for listening in.
Okay, Raphael, thank you very much. We have a bunch of questions in chat. I can ask these questions, or I can ask the participants to ask the questions. However anybody feels like. I'll call you up. So, Rick Daniel, did you want to ask your question? There we go. Awesome.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions, and I think actually in the course of the presentation, Raphael maybe answered a couple of them. Maybe one that I didn't ask. When you have like south-facing windows, is it still desirable to minimize the amount of window area, if you're using triple glazed windows, or do triple glazed windows provide enough insulation value that you can still get away with fairly large windows? Certainly in Canmore, everybody loves the views, so everybody wants big windows.
Right, and yeah, great question. And you know, that's definitely a bit as well, right? It depends what the clients want. Yeah, and for sure, it depends to you, because that's why people move here and yeah, buy places here because they want to live in the mountains and want to see them mountains. But yeah, it's really like bigger windows are better. The best is if you can couple it with shading, right? So that you have big windows, but they don't overheat in the summer. Now, so here as example, we were to do that on the balcony side, but we weren't able to do that on this side, just because of the, you know, given design parameters. So on those windows, actually, the clients have installed interior blinds, right, to minimize the overheating in the summer. But I guess it's a fine line, and it all depends on the client as well, and their wants.
I might just make a quick comment as well, that we did a retrofit with using the exterior wood fiber insulation, and one of the somewhat unexpected benefits of that is it really keeps the house cool in the summer. During that incredible heat wave we had this summer, our house remained quite comfortable throughout the hottest days. So we always think in terms of the reducing the heating requirement in the winter, but that kind of continuous exterior insulation is great in the hottest days of the summer as well.
It's a great observation. It's a hard question you asked too about the windows. I think it could be a whole presentation about windows. So good answer, Raphael. Rick, is that it for your questions?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
thank you.
Okay, it's Curtis. Did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the presentation. I was just curious about the roof. Did you end up improving the insulation for your attic or your roof line?
We looked at that, but we wanted to. So it's a truss system, and we actually had the insulation guy over, and it actually was what they had installed was R50, and it wasn't possible to add blown-in insulation because it was mostly attic or sloped roof. So therefore, we were not able to add insulation to the roof because we didn't take the ceiling down.
Okay. Second question, since I've got the stage. I was curious about your metrics. Did you do a baseline and then try to do a comparable just to see how the improvements have paid off?
No, we actually didn't, and that was one of my really drawbacks because or regrets, I guess, because we started this project before, you know, the funding was available and the federal grants. So we did not do an energy assessment before we started the renovation. So with that, we don't really have comparable numbers, you know, how much energy was consumed before and how much after. So unfortunately not.
Raphael, just to add to that, what do the clients say about how the comfort level as compared to before?
Well, so they lived in there before only like 2 or 3 nights, but they did notice the noise off the driveway or off the highway. And now with the wood fiber and with that sound transmission glass, you can really have the door shut and you don't hear the noise. So that's one really advantage. And then, yeah, the temperature seems consistent. Again, they haven't lived through a winter yet. But, you know, just because of the added insulation and like Rick mentioned, in the summer, the house actually stays cool, even though it has such large glazing. But yeah, that's yet to be figured out, I think.
Okay, we have a question from, I'm going to mess up your name, but it's Manaz. The question is, what is the density of the insulation? So what's the density of the Gutex? Do you know, Raphael?
Great question.
Are you looking it up? Are you?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, I think it's about, it depends on the product too, but about 180 kilogram a cubic meter.
If that makes any sense to anybody.
I'll leave that with you.
in terms of density.
Right.
When you're installing it, how big are the sheets, Raphael?
Also, they're 60 centimeters by 120, so they're about 2 feet by less than 4 feet.
Okay, and how,
so-
and they're 4 inches thick, is that what you added, 4 inches?
60 mil, so they're 2 3/8, but you know
Okay.
that product is available in different thicknesses.
Right,
Um,
but is
yeah.
that size easy enough to throw around? Like you can throw that around, you don't need help with it?
Oh yeah, that's easy. But a pallet, like those pallets that we saw, they're about 1,000 pounds. So it definitely has, you know, quite a bit of density, especially if you compare it to foam, of course, right, which has basically no density. So yeah, it is kind of heavy, right? So as example, EPS has about, you know, a density of 30. So the wood fiber is about 6 or 7 times heavier, which really makes it a good insulation value and to retain that heat, right? That's why it's so much better for in the summer as well, because like foam, as example, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't slow down overheating because the phase shift is so short because the heat just goes through it, whereas the wood fiber really kind of retains that heat.
So I'm going to skip a question here and just go on to, is there fire retarders in the insulation? So I think you addressed that, that it's fire retardant. So how much more fire retardant is the Gutex, the thicker it is or the thinner it is? Do you know, Raphael? So if you add 1 inch, for instance.
So I think the thinnest they make is 40 mil, so 1.5 inches.
Okay.
So they don't make anything thinner, I don't think. Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm not sure actually.
Okay. We can find that out, I guess. I just thought we'd ask. Okay, so Daryl was wanting to see the data showing that the cladded vinyl is more insulating than wood, and if the measurements published from the manufacturers are from center of glass or considered the whole unit. So I don't know much about vinyl cladding, and so I'm going to guess that that's a question for the salespeople. Raphael, do you have any answers for that?
Yeah, thanks, Daryl. Great question, and thanks for joining us. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer your question. You know, what we compared with the windows, or the windows that we finally decided to go with, because we you know, we looked at a few manufacturers and it was very, very close. So it was a hard decision to make. But the one that we went with, we saw that vinyl windows was a better performing than the wood metal. But yeah, full disclosure, I'm not sure if that was center of glass or the whole unit. Center of glass, what I understand is just it looks only at the U-value of the center of the glass, and the whole unit looks at the edge, which is usually the weak point, right? So from what I understand, some manufacturer certified the center of glass, and then others who are more, you know, thorough, they look at the whole unit. But yeah, I'd have to look into that, Daryl.
So just a little bit about windows. So center of glass is usually a measurement that you see from the glass, the sealed unit manufacturer.
Yes.
Manufacturer, and on windows from a manufacturer, they usually give you an ER, and the ER is the whole window. It's considering all aspects of the window. So that number is intended to make it easier for you as a purchaser to compare one manufacturer to another. But it doesn't necessarily tell you a lot about the performance of the window when we're looking at the aspects of passive house. So Raphael, did you have more to add to that?
No, thanks, Kim.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Rick, you had another question about a manufacturer in Maine. Were you talking about the Gutex? Is that what you're asking about?
Yes, I think my question was, I think I heard about a year or so ago that there was a company, I think it was in Maine, that was beginning to, or had plans to start manufacturing a similar material, but I couldn't find the reference. Raphael, do you know if anyone in North America is starting to manufacture it, which hopefully would reduce the cost a bit?
Yeah, yes. So I don't know. I heard that 2 years ago that somebody bought an old paper mill. But yeah, right now all the wood fiber is being imported from Europe, which yeah, doesn't make sense, number one, and number two, also with the shipping delays and everything, it made it a bit more challenging. There's still a number of wholesalers here in Canada, but yeah, I totally agree. It would make so much sense to produce it in North America or in Canada.
I believe there is a wood fiber product that's available that's manufactured in Alberta, but it's not the same. So it's not as dense. It doesn't have the same qualities that Gutex has. So it's not exactly the same. It doesn't have the same R value either.
Right.
Okay, Tom Cox, did you want to ask a question?
Oh, sure, I can ask, I guess, if you can hear me.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I was, one of the pictures, it looked like you only got the wood fiber up to like the base of the soffit. Did you get it all the way to the top of the walls up the attic, or did you do something else above the soffit level?
Yeah, so above the soffit level, we, well, it depends. So if it was in the cold space, in the attic, like where it was cold in the attic, like as example here, up here in those gables, we did not install wood fiber because it's cold on the inside. But between like main and second floor, where there is like a shed roof around, we did insulate in between there. Again, the roof stayed, right? So we didn't remove the whole roof and added wood fiber and put the roof back. We basically infilled it. So there's definitely, a bit of thermal bridging happening there. But we did infill those spots just before we did the soffit, actually.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, that's the end of the questions in the chat. Does anybody else have any more questions? We have a few more minutes.
Yes, Heather. Is it Heather? Yeah, my name is Helen Ostrowski, and I did post a question.
Oh, Helen, I'm sorry, I missed your question.
It's okay. Your hands are full. I understand. And Ralph was the presenter, right? I was having some challenges with my Zoom, but anyway, okay. I think it's Ralph. But I won't take long because I know we're almost 1 o'clock. And my interest is my husband and I. My name is Helen Ostrowski. I don't know if you can see it. I was having some challenges. And we live and we work from our sustainable eco home office in Calgary. And we have been following the passive house movement. My husband was in contact with many of you, and I'd like to continue on and be in contact. I am impressed by the technology that was presented, and it's really great for the architects, the engineers, the people in the technical field, and it's full of info, and I'm impressed. Now I also am working with the everyday person, clients, and they know some of the technology, but they may not be up to the interest or knowledge of the architects, engineers, planners. And that's what I'm aiming for. I'm in the process of putting together some probably, well, not quite there yet. I have to be modest. I'm aiming for a summit that will focus on the everyday client. And I'd like to get in touch with you and see if we can do something along those lines. So that's my comment. And probably I won't take long asking my questions. It will be for another time.
Well, thank you very much, Helen. And do you have another question?
Yeah, like how do I get in touch with the passive house? I believe you must be with the passive house then, because you are moderating this.
You bet. So Helen, yes, if you put your email up in the chat, we'll send you an email and an invitation for newsletters, and I'll make sure I contact you, Helen. Okay.
Yes, and also I just want to let you know I'm compiling a book again, it is, I am being, I don't know, like, you know, big dream, aiming to have this compilation, not the whole thing. My husband just passed away. Jorg Ostrowski just
Oh, I'm
passed
sorry to
away.
hear that.
Yes,
Yes.
I don't know if, well, he knows some of you. I don't know if you know him, but he knows the Passive House. And I'm compiling his work, our work. And of course, I have an ambitious dream. It needs a lot of help as well, not just from myself, from yourselves as well, for those who are interested. And I will have to do it chapter by chapter, putting the compilation of his research, our work, our clients, stories, lots of stories that would probably address the everyday client. And I said
That's
to one client, I'm aiming for it for early next year. You know, but Heather, I know I have to quit talking.
so. Thank you very much, Helen.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch, and sounds like an awesome project. And I am sorry to hear about your passing.
Do you know your?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
thank you, Heather. Thank you. But
Okay.
if I'm not fast enough, I may not get my address, my email address on the chat, but I think I will be able to get the Passive House anyway. Contact.
Just put it up in the chat. And we do just have a few minutes left. And I'm sorry, I did see there was more questions I missed. So there was one from Mark Hambridge at the very end. And Mark, hi, Mark. Mark was wondering about whether you'd share your presentation, Raphael.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, how should we go about that? Yeah, I think it makes sense to have it available.
Yeah, I think if you maybe email info at Passive House Alberta and make a request, and we should be able to follow up, right? Is that correct, Taylor? Would we be able to do that? Taylor there, maybe?
Yeah, I will, yeah, just email the account and I will get back to you about it.
Yes, excellent, okay. And Sean Rose had put up a link to a potential fiberboard manufacturer in Maine. So probably, I have no idea, but my guess is that importing from Maine might be just as expensive and be as carbon intensive as bringing it over the ocean. Although I guess somebody else needs to do the math for that. Okay, I think that's just about all of the questions. There was a comment about the HEPA filter and all of our mutual concern about smoke and wildfires and what that means to our indoor air quality. And that's something we certainly have to be aware of. Okay, any other questions? I'm just going to quickly scroll through and see if I see any hands up. If not, just thank Raphael and thank you very much, everybody, for coming. It's great to see such an awesome turnout today. And we'll have another, I think we'll have one more talk before we have a break for Christmas. So we'll have one more talk in November, I think, and that will be it. So I think Katie McLeod is looking forward to the next one. Okay, thank you very much. And we have Helen's email. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.